Yes, welcome to the channel. My name's Rob and I am exploring everything Poland. And in today's video, we're going to look at another very influential Polish person, and that is Chopin.
Frédéric Francois Chopin was a Polish composer and virtuoso pianist of the Romantic era who wrote primarily for solo piano. Chopin was born on March 1, 1810 in Zelazowa Wola, 46 kilometers, 29 miles west of Warsaw. A child prodigy, he completed his musical education and composed his earlier works in Warsaw before leaving Poland at the age of 20, less than a month before the outbreak of the November 1830 uprising.
I've said this in pretty much all of the Polish famous people videos that I've done. Polish people seem to leave Poland. This isn't a new thing, it seems. Chopin, he's left. He's gone from Poland. It'll be interesting to know if he actually went back, because some do go back and some don't. Like Strzelecki, I don't think he went back. Without seeing it in front of me, I can't pronounce it. Kozioszko. I don't think went back. Marie Curie, did she go back? I can't remember now. But a lot of famous Polish people, they find success and they leave.
At 21, he settled in Paris. Thereafter, in the last 18 years of his life, he gave only 30 public performances, preferring the more intimate atmosphere of the salon. He supported himself by selling his compositions and by giving piano lessons, for which he was in high demand. Chopin formed a friendship with Franz Liszt and was admired by many of his other musical contemporaries, including Robert Schumann. In 1835, Chopin obtained French citizenship. After a failed engagement to Maria Wodzinska from 1836 to 1837, he maintained an often troubled relationship with the French writer Amandine Dupin, known by her pen name, George Sand. A brief and unhappy visit to Majorca with Sand in 1838 to 39 would prove one of his most productive periods of composition. In his final years, he was supported financially by his admirer, Jane Stirling, who also arranged for him to visit Scotland in 1848.
So it's coming across like he's had a really, there's not necessarily massive struggles in his life, but it's not necessarily all been plain sailing. His love life seems like it was a bit of a mess. And from talking about Majorca, he's clearly then maybe the best music sometimes comes from raw emotion, right? And it's quite often when heartbreaks happened. Maybe that's the case for Chopin.
For most of his life, Chopin was in poor health. About how Chopin died, little is known. He died in Paris in 1849 at the age of 39.
Wow.
Probably of pericarditis, aggravated by tuberculosis. All of Chopin's compositions include the piano. Most are for solo piano, though he also wrote 2 piano concertos, a few chamber pieces, and some 19 songs set to Polish lyrics. His piano writing was technically demanding and expanded the limits of the instrument. His own performances were noted for their nuance and sensitivity. Chopin invented the concept of the instrumental ballade. His major piano works also include mazurkas, waltzes, nocturnes, polonaises, etudes, impromptus, scherzos, preludes, and sonatas, some published only posthumously.
It's quite interesting that he did actually do mazurka and he did polonaise, which are traditional Polish dances. So he did the music for that style. So although he moved to France, it was still in keeping with his Polish, his Polish heritage.
Among the influences on his style of composition were Polish folk music, the classical tradition of J.S. Bach, Mozart, and Schubert, and the atmosphere of the Paris salons, of which he was a frequent guest. His innovations in style, harmony, and musical form, and his association of music with nationalism were influential throughout and after the late Romantic period. Chopin's music, his status as one of music's earliest superstars, his indirect association with political insurrection, his high-profile love life, and his early death have made him a leading symbol of the Romantic era. His works remain popular, and he has been the subject of numerous films and biographies of varying historical fidelity.
I would love to know a lot of famous people, especially of this era, ended up being more famous after they died, because that's when their works became part of the public knowledge. And so I'm thinking, if he died at the age of 39, which is a really young age, but I suppose in this era, healthcare wasn't necessarily the greatest, so maybe that was a part of the downfall. So he wasn't necessarily alive ridiculous amounts of time. He was, by what they're saying, he was quite a private person, didn't necessarily like doing big concert style performances. So did his work become more popular after his death? That's a question, if you can answer it.
With his health further deteriorating, Chopin desired to have a family member with him. In June 1849, his sister, Ludwika, came to Paris with her husband and daughter. And in September, supported by a loan from Jane Stirling, he took an apartment at Plaquet Vendôme 12. After the 15th of October, when his condition took a marked turn for the worse, only a handful of his closest friends remained with him. Although Verdot remarked sardonically that all the grand Parisian ladies considered it de rigueur to faint in his room. Some of his friends provided music at his request. Among them, Pataka sang, and Franchomme played the cello. Chopin bequeathed his unfinished notes on a piano tuition method, Projet de méthode, to Alkin for completion. On the 17th of October, after midnight, the physician leaned over him and asked whether he was suffering greatly. "No longer," he replied. He died a few minutes before 2 o'clock in the morning. Those present at the deathbed appear to have included his sister Ludwika, Princess Marcelina Czartoryska, Sand's daughter Solange, and his close friend Thomas Albrecht. Later that morning, Solange's husband Clesinger made Chopin's death mask and a cast of his left hand. The funeral, held at the Church of the Madeleine in Paris, was delayed almost 2 weeks until the 30th of October. Entrance was restricted to ticket holders, as many people were expected to attend.
So maybe he was quite... My point before about him maybe being more successful afterwards, maybe that's not necessarily true, because, they're saying that it was a kind of a ticketed event for his funeral. So there must have been demand to say goodbye to him. So in his short life, he must have been incredibly influential on the music industry. Incredible. What a strange life he had.
Over 3,000 people arrived without invitations from as far as London, Berlin, and Vienna, and were excluded. Mozart's Requiem was sung at the funeral. The soloists were the soprano Jean-Anaïs Castellan, the mezzo-soprano Pauline Verdot, the tenor Alexis Dupont, and the bass Luigi Lablache. Chopin's Preludes No. 4 in E minor and No. 6 in B minor were also played. The organist at the funeral was Louis Lafabure-Vallée. The funeral procession to Père-Lachaise Cemetery, which included Chopin's sister Ludwika, was led by the aged Prince Adam Czartoryska. The pallbearers included Delacroix, Franchomme, and Camille Pleyel. At the graveside, the funeral march from Chopin's Piano Sonata No. 2 was played, in Reber's instrumentation. Chopin's tombstone, featuring the muse of music, Euterpe, weeping over a broken lyre, was designed and sculpted by Clesinger.
That's impressive.
The expenses of the funeral monument, amounting to 5,000 francs, were covered by Jane Stirling, who also paid for the return of the composer's sister Ludwika to Warsaw. As requested by Chopin, Ludwika took his heart, which had been removed by his doctor Jean Crouvellier and preserved in alcohol in a vase, back to Poland in 1850.
That's another common thing. So clearly he left Poland and moved to France. But how often now? So I said I'm pretty sure it's the same with Marie Curie. Was it Marie Curie or it's the other one? I can't remember now. Anyway, is yes, they've kind of moved their life to another country, but their heart is always with Poland. And this one is literally, his heart is with Poland, his mother country. That's a bit weird. It's a bit weird to request for his heart to be moved back to Poland, but there you have it. It's bizarre.
She also took a collection of 200 letters from Sand to Chopin. After 1851, these were returned to Sand, who destroyed them. Chopin's disease and the cause of his death have been a matter of discussion. His death certificate gave the cause of death as tuberculosis, and his physician, Cruvelier, was then the leading French authority on this disease. Other possibilities that have been advanced have included cystic fibrosis, cirrhosis, and alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. A visual examination of Chopin's preserved heart, the jar was not opened, conducted in 2014, and first published in the American Journal of Medicine in 2017, suggested that the likely cause of his death was a rare case of pericarditis caused by complications of chronic tuberculosis.
A fascinating life. It wasn't straightforward, was it? Look, it didn't go into stupid amounts, but probably because it was a long time ago, it's not necessarily fully known. But he didn't, from this, he didn't necessarily seem truly happy in his life. You know, there was no incredible, I say there's no incredible successes. That's not quite what I mean. There was no standout moments. You know, he had troubles with his love life and things like that. There was no real consistency. There was no real, there was no real, just general happiness throughout. There, you know, but there was also no real devastation. You know, a lot of these famous people, they go through some serious hardship. He didn't necessarily do that, but he wasn't necessarily truly happy. Maybe it was just his character. Maybe he was just a proper introvert type of person. But fascinating. And Chopin, most people should know about Chopin. Not necessarily knowing his music specifically, although you may know of his music. I wouldn't be able to tell you any of his music. But if I listen to some, I'll probably know, I recognize that. A really interesting story, and clearly such a shame that he died at the age of 39. What more could he have achieved if he led a longer, healthier life? That's an interesting thought to finish with. Really fascinating. Another Polish character that we have now discovered about. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like this video, subscribe to the channel, and support me any way you can. If you want to buy me a coffee, link down below. You can become a YouTube member for the channel just to support me, to allow me to keep doing these videos and learning myself. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.